And we are back, my friends. Wow. Quicker than a cricket, let me tell you what. Hello, Slim. Hey, Nana. Hey, Sarah. Chloe made it. Minky says, yay, I can listen while I work. Hello, TCB. Kiki Eyes. I'm so glad everybody made it back in. Well, not everybody, but that's okay. People have certain cases they follow. And that is just how it goes. Hey, baby kisses. We missed you this morning, Chloe. How you doing, hon? Hey, Anon. Let me tell you what, the case of Kyron Horman pisses me off to no end. Really pisses me off. And I'm going to tell you why. He has been missing for way over a decade. He has a mama. He has a daddy. He has people that love him. Friends, family. And there's two people that will not speak. They will not speak. And that would be Terry Horman and DeDe Spicher. Some people will say, oh, yes, they've cooperated fully. Not according to the police. Not according to the detectives. The detectives will say phone lines are open. They can call anytime, but one got immunity, pled the fifth, wouldn't even answer a simple question. And that question was, who is this picture of? And that picture was of Kyron Horman. Why would you not cooperate with a missing child investigation? I want to say right now, thank you so much to Maggie Marie for becoming a new YouTube member. So glad you are here. And I see right here that Stacy gifted a Crime Lines and Lies membership. Let's get our umbrellas, my friends. Hello, Wendy. I see you. Hello, kitty cat mom. Chrissy said this case is so parallel to the Gannon Stout case. It is so upsetting. It is. It's like Letitia went through the true crime dictionary, took a page out and said, well, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to mess it up. Because some people leave a trail of breadcrumbs. Letitia left loaves of bread. It has been verified that the authorities at Skyline, I shouldn't say the authorities at Skyline because they're teachers, parents at Skyline Elementary saw Terry leave with Kyron. We also know that DeDe and Terry are unaccounted for at the same time on June 4th. Investigators believe DeDe left a Skyline home where she was gardening, but left her car behind. Well, who would have picked her up? Did she hitchhike? Who would have picked her up? DeDe Spicher and Terry Horman were both unaccounted for during the same period of time the day Kyron Horman disappeared. Sources tell KGW that DeDe Spicher, a close friend of Terry's, I'd say they're a little more than friends, that's just my opinion though, was doing gardening work not far from the Horman family home on the day Kyron disappeared, but was unaccounted for during a 3-hour period from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. She could not be reached by cell phone during this time either, according to sources. Sources also tell KGW that during the period of time DeDe was unaccounted for, her car remained at the property where she had been gardening. According to sources, that detail is significant because if DeDe left the property, as investigators believe, she would have had to leave in another vehicle. Uh-huh. Meanwhile, at a Wednesday press conference, and mind you, this was years ago, investigators focused on the movements of the Horman family pickup truck on the day Kyron disappeared. Investigators specifically asked for any witnesses who might have seen the pickup in the same area of Skyline between 10:15 and 11:30 a.m. Well, I would say there's a lot to ask. I'd say there's a lot of questions. Why would these two lovers, women, not communicate with the authorities as to where Kyron could be? Before we get to the conversation, let's welcome everyone and say happy hump day.
Oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
It is hump day. We were going to have a 2 for Tuesday, but as you know, we got some other stuff going on around here. And so we had to reschedule for today. Let's bring up our wonderful friend Samantha, who has been fully vested in Kyron's case since the beginning. Welcome back, Samantha. I'm so glad you're here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Brooks. I'm so glad to get another invite.
Anytime, my friend, the door's always open. You're part of the family. You can come in and grab some Cheetos, get a Diet Dr. Pepper, whatever you want. Your family here.
I wish I could make it down to have what is it? Your cherry limeades in those Sonics down south. Oh, I would die for one of those right now.
I had one yesterday. Yep.
They're so good.
Yep. The best cherry limeade, though, is from Brahms.
Really?
Yep. 10 times better than Sonic. And people that are real cherry limeade aficionados, they will go to Sonic and get the ice. Or they'll do it in reverse. Because everyone loves Sonic ice. And then they'll go to Brahms and get the cherry limeade because they use a totally different syrup.
Well, it sounds amazing either way. I just miss down south sometimes.
Where have you been down south?
Well, I'm from Texas. And my family is scattered all over from one side of Texas to the other down there. I only have my siblings here and my grandbabies and kids.
But you have a tight-knit family. I love your pictures of salmon fishing, and I didn't even know that you could can salmon, except for what you buy in the store.
Oh my gosh, and it came out so good. I was so proud of myself. I literally self-taught myself through a canning group on Facebook how to can salmon, doing the water only, not doing like a pressure cooker. It took like 4 hours, but yeah, it canned perfectly. My husband and his friends had some, so yeah, I'm so happy because next year I'll be able to do that with so much more salmon. I only did like a small batch this year.
It looked like a lot to me, my friend. Don't discount yourself. Okay, let's get to it. First off, I'm going to put you in the hot seat because you are in the hot seat. Where are your thoughts on the case of Kyron Horman?
Well, as you know, before, like when I did one of my first shows with you, actually, I was really on the fence with who had did it. And I was kind of like 50-50 Terry. 50-50, maybe somebody walked into the school and took Kyron or something like that. Just because of the west side of the school and how convenient it would be to take a kid from there. But, excuse me. And then, I don't know, it was a while after that. I had already done lots of case studies, probably about 10 or 12 on a lot of different people. Had dug deep kind of with DeDe Spicher, and then hadn't really dug deep with Terry because everybody had already done Terry. Everybody already talks about Terry. So I decided, why not? You know, I'm going to do a case study on Terry. Well, the more and more and more that I dug, the more lies I started to see. I started finding old news clips where Kyron's parents are talking about his story or her story changing constantly. And then I started seeing her change in her own words by the People magazine interview she did, the Dr. Phil interview that she did, the story that she told the police in the very beginning, everything changing constantly. And now I feel like either Terry did this alone or Terry and DeDe did this. And maybe there's even a third person. I don't know. But definitely Terry Horman, I feel, in my opinion, has something to do with Kyron missing. And because of the shadiness of DeDe Spicher and the things that she did in the beginning, the way she didn't want to talk with police, the way that she tried to protect Terry in the very beginning, what she was doing on June 4th and the fact that she was missing the same time that Terry was, I just have to put her in the hot seat right next to Terry.
Well,
and that's kind of where my thoughts are.
And if you've listened to other cases I do on the channel, I always say when someone has unaccounted for time and they have a mess of a day, we spoke about the 4 suspects in the Michael Vaughn disappearance yesterday, not too far from you. They're the next door state in Idaho. We talk about Summer Wells. We talked about Delphi today. We've talked about Gannon Stout and all the silly errands that Letitia had that day and the excuses that to someone who knows, well, they know. For me, with Terry, the driving around with a baby with an ear infection to soothe her. Now, we will do it for colic, but not for an ear infection, particularly the area she's talking about. And that's, you're local and you've done amazing work. Mm-hmm. You said that your ears pop when you go through there.
Every time we go up there, we just recently went up there to Rocky Point to do another video, and my ears popped the entire time we were up there. But I'm really actually starting to wonder if the baby even had an earache, because I found information that said that she had actually finished her antibiotics the week prior to Kyron coming up missing. But if she did have an earache, yeah, her ears are going to be popping and that baby's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But again, it could be another one of, Terry's lies.
And why would you take her out in the first place? Supposedly the science fair project was actually there the day before. She
right.
could put Kyron on the bus and stayed home to take care of the baby.
Well, she told Kane the day that she borrowed the truck on June 4th, she told Kane she had to use the truck because she was supposed to be picking up the science fair project now that he had already done his presentation. But the fact of the matter is those presentations were not supposed to be picked up until the following week. So she lied to Kane to get that truck.
Mm-hmm. But then she
had it the day before too.
She also said it was to take out recycling. Oh, okay, you multitasker. I've talked to many
Yeah.
people in Portland. They come by and pick up your recycling.
Well, actually, she used the truck to take recycling. They would take recycling to the Fred Meyers, the first Fred Meyers she actually went to on June 4th. On the 3rd, she took Kyron, dropped off him and his science fair project. She didn't know he was doing his presentation that day. She said that the teacher did not inform her of it. She thought he was doing it on the 4th, when actuality, he did it that day. She had a truck full of recycling. I actually have the messages between her and her son, James, where she talks about taking the recycling to the Fred Meyers on the 3rd. So the 4th, she just flat out lies to Kane and says she needs the truck to pick up the science fair project. And you know, by her day, we know kind of what she did that day because she's lied so much that the science fair project never got picked up that Friday. Ever. She never went back to the school. And she left the science fair early and didn't stay till 10 o'clock when it was actually going to be over. So her day for June 4th, nobody knows what she did after she goes to a couple Fred Meyers and dry cleaners and maybe the Michael's craft store that nobody's ever really confirmed. And then from there, she's just driving around.
To soothe an earache.
Yes, she says to soothe the baby. We know that there was one witness that...
And to find Tylenol that's not recalled, if you call any Fred Meyers, you don't have to have exactly Tylenol. We know there was a recall earlier in the year. Not like Fred Meyers hasn't given their entire inventory to Portland police.
Yeah, correct. There was a recall on Tylenol, Motrin, cold medicine, and everything else. But the FDA put something out that said that there would not be a shortage on any of it. And there were off-brand, which we know Fred Meyers here has Kroger brand. And there's Equate brand. There's several other brands that she could have gotten. To me, I just feel like she's out there trying to, come up with her alibi for the day, having people see her at all these places.
Well, we have heard from the two women that she saw at the gym, because with this terrible earache that she had to go to 2 Fred Meyers to try to find good children's Tylenol. She decided from there to go work out. Some people will say, oh, she's an avid fitness person. Well, I mean, maybe she is, but your child is sick. So you take a sick child and you put the sick child in the daycare. By the way, she also tried to kidnap same child after her and Kane divorced.
Yep.
But some people will say that's a lie. Everyone's lying except for Terry and Dede.
Well, that's a certain, group of people that believe that. I think the majority believes that Terry is a liar.
Well, I think we've been around the block enough to know that some people just like the drama. Let's start with this clip right here, and then we're going to get to it.
Now the latest on missing Oregon boy Kyron Horman, last seen nearly a month ago. For the first time, his mother is implying that the boy's stepmother knows what happened to him. CBS News correspondent John Blackstone reports.
Kyron Horman's mother spoke to the media yesterday, pleading for help and addressing Kyron's stepmother.
We implore Terry Horman to fully cooperate with the investigators to bring Kyron home.
Terry Horman, Kyron's stepmother, was the last to see the 7-year-old alive when he disappeared from school on June 4th.
Now, it is YouTube. I have to put my commentary in. As you remember, if you have watched this show before about Kyron, or you've been following the case, both Desiree and Kane, much like Landon and Al, believed Terry. But when detectives and investigators said something with the timeline and what we know doesn't add up, then they changed everything. There would be no reason for law enforcement to try to frame Terry and Dede unless they had the evidence to put in front of the judge. You have to have rock solid evidence. This is not 1970. This is not 1980.
Yeah, according to Desiree and Kane, Terry was changing her story every day and sometimes multiple times a day about her timeline, where she was and what she was doing and where she was driving.
Inch High said Terry was busy making plans to have Kane under the landscaping. And it's been too long for justice.
She's been one focus of the investigation surrounding his disappearance. On Monday, Kyron's father filed for divorce, moved out of the home with their 19-month-old daughter, and obtained a restraining order against Terry.
Clearly, there's been a division here, and the biological parents are pointing the finger at Terry Horman, saying, what happened? You should be helping, you know.
While Terry Horman has not been named a suspect in Kyron's disappearance, she has been given 2 polygraph tests, and Wednesday retained a prominent Portland criminal defense attorney.
It's very surprising that it took so long for her to actually hire a lawyer. She's been in the spotlight and the target of this investigation for so long.
The FBI and local police have now declared this a criminal investigation, but Kyron's mother isn't giving up.
Kyron is still alive. We would like all of you, everyone, to continue to get his face out there. We pray each day for Kyron.
John Blackstone, CBS News, San Francisco.
How does she deny? How does Terry deny Desiree's pain? Does she have no feelings at all? We know that she kicked her own son out of the house. We know she drove drunk with him. That's a proven record. You can pull that up.
Desiree is one tough cookie, that's for sure. This woman, what she's gone through, the searches that she's put together, dealing with the people online, just having to collect all of the money to, do her fundraisers and stuff to do these searches. I admire Desiree. I really, really do. She is an amazing woman, and she's out there fighting for her child. And I don't think that most mothers could do that. The way she fights so hard. I mean, even going right up to Terry's house and telling her, like, I know you did it. She goes to the house. They're taking chalk, writing all over the ground in front of her house. They go put flyers up around her house. I just admire the way she just keeps moving forward. And then this last year, when she did her car wash, and she's just don't sleep. She seriously has a smile on her face. She doesn't look broken. She looks like she knows something. And I really hope that it's, something has cracked and that this case is actually going to move forward.
Well, a lot of people say this is the year, but we're coming to the end of the year. This is what Desiree said on the last anniversary of Kyron's disappearance.
To Terry, we're coming for you. Don't sleep. Just want to say to Terry, we're coming for you. Don't sleep. Dede Terry. We're coming for you. Don't sleep.
We're coming for you. Don't sleep. And please don't ever think that investigators don't speak to victims' families and tell them not everything. They don't hand them the file, but they tell them this is where the investigation is going and we cannot rule this person out.
Yeah, exactly. And her husband is a detective too. So, I mean, I know that he isn't asking anybody for any information or whatnot, but I mean, like, he knows how this ball is going to roll. He was telling everybody in the very beginning how the ball was going to roll and how their lives were going to be looked into and none of their lives would be secret anymore. And that information upset Terry. She acted like, what? They're going to look into us? Well, yeah, they're going to look into you. They're going to look into the entire family. That's what they always do with missing child cases. They talk with all of the parents, and if they don't see anything, then they can move on, because it usually is somebody, either parents or someone that's part of the family, when a child comes up missing, and they have to be able to rule them all out. But she was so concerned about herself and them going to look into her immediately that Tony himself was already thinking, okay, this is weird. What's up with her? Why is she acting this way? She put she shined that light on herself in the beginning. If she wouldn't have been acting the way she acted in the beginning, cops may not have even been able to hone in on her the way that they did, until, of course, they would have found out about her, changing her story and whatnot. But I mean, she's talking about the media and people coming after her on the 5th of June, the day after Kyron comes up missing. She's already emailing people about how they're, looking at her. They're coming after her.
Yes, she did. And I'm going to be quite honest. I don't care about polygraphs, because when someone hasn't had sleep or they're under immense stress, but every one of them that she took, she failed. Like Russ Faria, he took one. He failed it. Well, he should have gotten some sleep and taken others. We know in the Elizabeth Smart case, certain people that were in the circle failed a polygraph test. When they did it again, they passed. Same questions. These aren't trick questions. They're trying to get a baseline. And I'm not I don't know. I don't do polygraphs. I wouldn't know how to read it. I wouldn't know how to attach it. But I can say that after all this time of her not being fully cooperative, have an attorney. I don't care. But take your attorney to the police station, sit down, and go through the day. Do you want him found or not?
Right. And the polygraph test, her first one was on the 6th. So he comes up missing on June 4th on a Friday. Monday, she goes in to take her first polygraph. She comes home ranting and raving, telling everybody, they told me that I failed. I don't want to do this again. I'm not doing this. She's already like not even wanting to cooperate anymore right after that. And yeah, polygraphs aren't admissible in court. They're used as a tool pretty much to just look to see if there's some kind of deception there. She didn't even go to take her second polygraph for 10 days later. And then she walks out. And then the family pretty much has to, come together, put her in a room and interrogate her pretty much and just be like, okay, we need you to do this. You need to take a polygraph test. Can you please go do it? And then she finally went in to go do her third and then failed. But I mean, like, she immediately, like, I am not going to keep doing this. I failed, great, because it's always poor Terry.
And then she refused the optical polygraph from the FBI. From there, she lawyered up. Because the way your
Yeah.
eyes move when you're telling the truth or not telling the truth, that's dead set. I mean,
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
yeah.
Tell me more. I never knew anything about an optical test that they offered her. I'll have to look into that because I've never heard of that.
I'll send it to you. They use it in the FBI. They use it in the military. And the way your eyes move when you're, I mean, it's not like they're going to be like rolling or going all over the place, but they can tell by the optics of your eyes if you're truly telling the truth or not. The eyes can't lie.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you see how her eyes are on Dr. Phil the whole time. She's like looking up and just her eyes told a story when she did that Dr. Phil show.
Then we get to DeDe. Then we get to
DeDe Spicher.
So this is only anyone's opinion. What do you believe the relationship between DeDe and Terry was? I believe Terry, this is my opinion, lured her in to do her dirty work. DeDe started dressing like Terry, tried to do her hair like Terry. They lived together after Kyron went missing. They had burner phones between each other. Do you think that DeDe could have possibly done something to help out her friend, Terry?
Well, I personally think that DeDe may have been in love with Terry. I know that Desiree calls them lovers. I know several people say that. I don't know that for a fact. I do know she had one boyfriend her entire life in her early 40s. And it was the only man that I know of that she was ever with. Maybe during that, you know, maybe her early years, maybe she'd always liked women and just never like came out and said it. But I think maybe Terry manipulated that and knew it and used her sexuality to get what she wanted from Desert or from DeDe, like she had always done. She's used her sexuality to get what she wants. And, you know, from way back when, you can read up on her and just find out, like, she's done it with a lot of men. And then in this instant, possibly DeDe. So that's how I think she got DeDe to do what she wanted DeDe to do, whether it was do something awful to Kyron or help her do something with Kyron. I don't know.
T Pickles. I'm going to put the link in. If you could come up, I would love to hear from you. Please don't give your real name. Please don't come on camera. T Pickles said, I worked with DeDe and she was a bully and a follower. Nobody liked DeDe.
Yeah, that's somebody from our group. Hi, Miss Pickles. She is amazing. She finds out a lot of information. She's always sending me stuff. She is probably the one person that I know that's more disgusted with all of the misinformation than anybody is. And she is constantly trying as hard as she can to help people bring out the truth. And she works really hard at doing it. I'm constantly getting messages from her, and she's shared this information with me before. And I have no reason to believe that she's lying about it. She's always been like right there, you know, letting me know what's up. And yeah, I appreciate you being here.
And we've heard from other people via news clips that Dede is known to be unapproachable. But somehow Harry got in her good graces.
Harry Oaks?
Do what?
Oh, you said Terry, and I thought you said Harry.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, no. T. Pickle said someone that is the main focus of a missing child investigation is going to do whatever it takes to clear their name. You better believe it. All right, this is a very early news clip where they said Dede was gone for 3+ hours on the day Kyron vanished.
Hello, I'm Laurel Porter, in tonight for Tracy.
And I'm Joe Donlin. First at 6, friend investigated. The parents of Kyron Horman call out a close acquaintance of Kyron's stepmom. Just hours after we learned, police searched her home. News Channel 8's Amanda Burden is live outside that friend's Tualatin home. And Amanda, you caught up with her today.
Well, Joe, media has been swarming DeDe Spicher's home all day. When we finally saw her door open late this afternoon, we raced over to get comment, but neither Spicher nor her father were very happy to see us.
Did she have any knowledge of what happened to Kyron?
Cannot say.
After waiting outside DeDe Spicher's home all day, her father appears.
What do you say about her being in the news right now?
It's like any father would. I don't like it, but I have no comment on the whole situation.
Are you concerned for your daughter?
Yes, I am.
When asked whether Spicer's been in contact with Terry Horman, has been working with investigators, or knows where Kyron is, her father had the same answer.
You're not listening. I have no comment.
Then Spicer herself came to the car.
Woo! There she is in all her glory, talking to her dad. Look at that face. Shut the door. She's not concerned with Kyron. She's not concerned that Kyron is missing. Shut the door. Don't talk to them. Look at that again.
Her father had the same answer.
You're not listening. I have no comment.
Then Spicer herself came to the car.
Shut the door. Shut the door. What do you make of that, Samantha?
Well, I just think you can kind of see, she's an angry person, that's for sure. I mean, her father was a sheriff in Klamath Falls, or worked for the sheriff in Klamath Falls. And, I have been thinking a lot about what he told his daughter to do. Is he the one who told her to lawyer up? Is he the one that is trying to still protect her? Or, just in her ear whispering, this is what you need to do. And if that's why Dede has been so quiet all of this time. But Dede, I think, has an aggressive side to her. And you can really see it in this video.
Yeah. She might be struggling with her sexuality, as has been proposed, in different Facebook groups, her own admission.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, DeDe Spicher, actually, I've looked into her more than I have Terry. And it's just really weird because I feel like Dede is the key. Some people think Terry's the key. I feel like Dede's the key. Because if we can find out whether or not she had anything to do with Kyron coming up missing, then we will know who's responsible for Kyron coming up missing. Because if she has nothing to do with it, then we know Terry did it. And if she does have something to do with it, then, maybe that's why she was given immunity. If she was giving immunity, if she was cleared, if she did, pass that polygraph test?
Well, as you know, the polygraph I'm not so concerned about with either one of them, just because they're not admissible in court, and it's an investigative tool. But it was enough of an investigative tool for the police to stay focused on Terry, particularly denying the eye scan. But, you know, DeDe and her moving in together after Kane filed for divorce, that's kind of weird to me. I mean, I would be there for my friend, but I'm not going to up and just leave my home and say I'm going to move right in here with you and take care of you. Terry wasn't dying.
Right. And the thing with that is DeDe changed her story. DeDe said that Terry's parents asked her to go stay with Terry. And then she also says that Terry called her and said, I need you. And so her story's changed about why she went there. She gets there on June 28th, the same day that Kane files for divorce and gets a restraining order and leaves with the baby. Like the same day. She rushes to Terry's aid. And I just think that that's just really strange. And then the very next day, she goes down with another woman to downtown Portland, and they each purchase a disposable phone. And then the very next day after that, somebody else goes and purchases a burner phone. And what's strange about that is when they went and purchased them the day before, they used a fake name and they used cash. And then the next day, that same fake name was used and it was paid for in cash. DeDe says that she did not purchase that phone, and the other woman says that she did not purchase that phone, but it was the same name that they had used the day before. So either DeDe's lying about going back and purchasing 2 more phones, or Terry went and did it, which she just recently posted on Facebook that she had nothing to do with the burner phones. It wasn't her idea. She never bought one, yada, yada. But somebody's lying, or another person is involved, because there was only those 3 women. Why did 4 burner phones need to be bought?
Yeah. And another question, why not just use your phone if you have nothing to hide?
Right. And they came up with the excuses that their cell phones weren't working in the house and stuff. But they also said that there was a meeting that Terry had with, I believe it was with her attorney or someone, telling them that the house could be bugged, the car could be bugged, things could be bugged, to be careful. So they take any conversations that they're having outside to talk to one another instead of inside the house. And then they're using the burner phones to communicate with each other when they're not with each other. And it just, why? Why are you scared for law enforcement to hear what you're talking about? Maybe they're worried that law enforcement will take something that they're saying and twist it around. I don't know. But to me, red flags are going off. There's no reason for them to have the burner phones. And 4 were bought instead of just 3, or even just 2. I don't know. And then Bruce McCain says that it could have been one of these burner phones that they were looking for when they did searches in August of 2010 around the Germantown Loop. And in early August, they passed out flyers with DeDe's face on it and Terry's face on it and the truck on it. And then a few days later, and it also had a questionnaire wanting to know if you've seen Terry in a truck, or if you've seen DeDe, or did you have neighbors or visitors come to your home, because they even wanted to talk to visitors to find out if they had seen anything on June 4th. And then the 7th, 8th, and 9th, they're searching this area. And then they're not searching for Kyron, they're searching for evidence. And Bruce McCain said that the evidence could have been one of these burner phones, because somewhere between the end of June and somewhere in July, DeDe Spicher talked to law enforcement. She must have told them something that was really important for them to take 3 days to search this area for evidence based off of what she told law enforcement.
100%. And back to the burner phones, I know of 2 cases off the top of my head. One is the case of Gannon Stout, where in court documents it said Letitia and Harley, her daughter, got burner phones to communicate. I also know in the case of Billy Joe Howell and her daughter Leilani, they would only talk if they were outside.
Yeah, something's just really strange with that. What did they have to hide that they didn't want law enforcement to know? That's what goes through my mind. And then you have Terry Horman's new boyfriend down in Clear Lake, California, when she first moves down there, that she tried, took a knife to his throat. And he's fearing for his life. She threatens him, threatens his family. And he says that she had 2 phones. One was her personal phone that she used all the time, and the other one was a burner phone. So even now, down in Clear Lake, California, she has a burner phone. And we all know, usually it's like drug dealers or, people doing bad things that have these burner phones. I got harassed recently saying, oh my God, a burner phone is just a prepaid phone. Just say prepaid phone. Well, a burner phone is a prepaid phone, but it's a phone that you're going to end up throwing away to get rid of. A throwaway phone. It's not a phone that you keep for long periods of time. That's why it's called a burner phone, a throwaway phone.
A burner phone, you do not have to give them your name. You don't have to register the serial number, and you do not have to use your social security number. Lots of people have prepaid phones.
I have a prepaid phone. I pay my bill once a month. It's like $45 a month, and I have just as much stuff on my phone than most people do on their own phones that they pay, through big businesses. But I pay a way less bill, and that's one of the reasons why I have a prepaid phone. But mine's not a burner phone because I'm not going to turn around and throw it away. I've had this phone number for years. That's what the difference is.
Yeah, and if she needed a new phone, then transfer the phone number. Wouldn't you want your pictures and your Google Drive on there? I mean, wouldn't you want that?
Well, yeah, if you're not doing something deceptive, but I mean, they were using the burner phones to communicate with each other, which just brings you back to June 4th, the day that Kyron came up missing. Here's a woman when they go and buy the burner phones at the end of the month, and she comes forward. This friend of Terry's that went with DeDe comes forward, turns it into law enforcement that she helped buy burner phones. Well, if she wouldn't have came forward, maybe law enforcement would have never found out about those burner phones. So that leads me to ask myself, did they use burner phones on June 4th? Between DeDe and Terry, if nobody else was using a phone to turn them into law enforcement, could they have been using them that day to communicate with each other? Because we know DeDe left her phone in her car at work when she comes up missing with the phone on. And then Terry's driving all over hell and back with the baby in the car.
But and no Kyron.
But no what?
But no Kyron. Yet people saw her leaving with Kyron, and she said that he had a doctor's appointment that day.
Right. And even Desiree has confirmed there was no doctor's appointment for that Friday. There was no doctor's appointment for the following Friday. She had to sign documents for the law enforcement to be able to go and search, his doctor records to try to confirm what Terry was telling them, that he was walking in a room and, wasn't acting quite himself, that he was being extra quiet, that he was having many seizures, and that he had a doctor's appointment. And she said that they were immediately able to, write that off as another one of Terry's lie. That was her controlling the narrative. She emailed the teacher so that she knew he would be gone the next day. Even his friends at school knew he had a doctor's appointment that did not exist, but they still talked about it because Kyron didn't come back. And the teacher's marking him absent at 10 a.m. in the morning because she, knows that he's got a doctor's appointment, but he's not there, marking him absent. And then she doesn't worry herself about where Kyron is for the rest of the day because she just thinks he has a doctor's appointment. And Terry even leaves his coat and backpack behind so that later on, well, what do you mean? I didn't have him. His coat and backpack were even here all day long. Why would I leave those here? It was all a way to manipulate the situation, to get law enforcement looking in all of these other directions. Because by the time he didn't get off of the bus at 3:30 p.m., he's already been missing 6.5 hours.
Which was the perfect cover.
Spicer herself came to the car. A reliable source tells News Channel 8 DeDe Spicher's a close friend of Terry Horman, the last person to see her stepson, Kyron, the day he disappeared from Skyline School. Last night, Kyron's biological parents released a statement to the media suggesting Spicer has, quote, not only been in contact with Terry, but has been providing Terry with support and advice that is not in the best interest of our son. They go on to
Now, only through investigation would the authorities come across Dede. They knew there was a connection between her and Terry. And when they realized that Dede also had the same missing timeline, they said, we have to do something. Suspecting is not arresting.
Right. I mean, her June 4th day is just insane when you look at it and see how she came up missing or how she just wasn't there. They say Dede abruptly left her job that day. First of all, using the word abruptly, it's almost like they saw her out there working and then all of a sudden they didn't. She showed up for work at 9 a.m. in the morning. She went in to talk to her boss, got her duties for the day. She was told to go to the far end of the property next to the road. That's what she did. She left her cell phone in the car. And the next thing you know, she's abruptly gone. They called her phone. They hollered for her, her boss and other employees. Desiree Young says they searched the property. You have this employer who's responsible for their employee. She could have been attacked by bees. She could have been. Something could have happened to her. So they're out there physically looking for her and cannot find her on this piece of property. And since her boss knew where she was that day because she told her where to go that day, Dede should have been easily found and wasn't.
Particularly with the festivities that they were preparing for where she was.
Yes, they were having the tour of beauty on the 5th of June. People come in, they go on these long drives. They go to 4 or 5 different beautiful areas to look at the flowers. Where she worked, West Wind Farms, was a lavender farm. So they were putting together, lavender baskets, setting up tables and stuff. And it wasn't like lots of vendors there. Like they're not going to be cooking food. They're not going to be having like a little coffee stand or something. These are just little tables and tents that they're having for flower baskets, maybe some pots, things that have to do with gardening. And she chose, I believe, June 4th to take off because she figured, okay, there's going to be lots of people on the property. Maybe I won't be missed. But at the same time, there's a lot of people on the property. So why didn't anybody see DeDe during that missing time?
And we also have to remember the year we're talking about, because Kyron has been missing for a very long time. The digital evidence is not the same that it is now. It's not that easily obtainable.
Well, they even go back and reenact this whole I didn't hear anybody calling me thing. Law enforcement takes her up there. I'm sure law enforcement standing right beside her because they want to know whether or not she can hear people calling for her. They set people over at the house. I'm sure in other locations hollering for her. And she says, oh, I hear that. Well, of course you're going to say you hear it. You have law enforcement standing right next to you and they can hear it. You're not going to look like a dumbass and say I didn't hear it because you'd really be called a liar. I think that the reenactment is very telling because in that area, everything echoes too. And I just don't believe she didn't hear anybody. Well, she didn't hear anybody because she wasn't there. I just really don't believe she was there.
And you would know because you live there and you've been to the area many times.
Yeah, Spicer is not cooperating with law enforcement.
I just know that she's a board member. She isn't she's nice, but she's not really approachable.
The sources say the day
she's nice. She's not really approachable. Which is fine. That's just her personality. I'm not going to read too much into that. But when your boss says, we couldn't find her ass on the day this little boy went missing, that is a problem.
Kyron disappeared, Spicer was gardening near the Horman's Northwest Portland home. At 11:15 that morning, sources say she left the job for an hour and a half, at which point she could not be reached by cell phone.
It's very shocking.
Neighbors saw the FBI searching Spicer's home last Thursday. Our source.
Okay, Samantha, you would know. Is there a signal problem in that area?
Is there a what problem?
A signal problem. If you can't get a signal.
In some places there is a signal problem. My husband's cell phone works everywhere up there. Mine does not. We both have prepaid phones. And yeah, I mean, there are certain roads that my phone just won't work on, but his works the whole time. So I think it just depends on what cell phone tower your particular service is pinging off of up there.
Oh, I got you. I'm following. Okay, so the woman on the screen said she was trying to reach her by cell phone. Now, this is her employee. She doesn't say, well, it happens out here quite a bit because we have bad signal. It was concerning because she couldn't get a hold of her that day.
I have good service on Old Germantown Road where that location is. It's more the west where like Logie Road, Dixie Point, Rocky Point, and up high in those high areas where Terry was driving around where I don't get cell phone service. But I get cell phone service east of Skyline Boulevard, and that's where her, that's where she was working, was east of Skyline.
Very shocking.
Neighbors saw the FBI searching Spicer's home last Thursday. Our sources tell us investigators executed search warrants at the homes of 3 of Terry's friends in the last week, and that one of those friends knows where Terry was the day Kyron disappeared. Then late this afternoon, we caught up with Terry Horman driving near her lawyer's office. She refused to comment on the case. And back live in Tualatin, in that statement from Kyron's biological parents, they say Spicer may be encouraging other people with information about Kyron's disappearance to keep quiet. Meanwhile, today the sheriff's office told us they have not talked to Terry Horman since she got a lawyer. They also admit a crime has been committed in this case. Back to you.
Okay, so they said very early on, a crime has been committed. There's no he wandered off from school and could have gone to play down by the water or wandered off into the woods. They said from the beginning, a crime has been committed, and two people will not communicate with the authorities trying to solve the crime. And those two are Terry Horman and DeDe Spicher. Let's take a second to thank our wonderful friend Angel for making it rain in here. Thank you so much, Angel. Love you so much. You guys turn on and allow gifts. So what do you think about that? Everybody in the area is out searching. Investigators are talking to anyone and everyone, but the two people that won't talk are Terry and DeDe. And of course, it's only your opinion.
Well, and don't forget, DeDe is the only one out of all of Terry's friends that lawyered up, even though 3 of her friends' homes were searched and they went and did polygraphs in July. That is also when DeDe declined taking a polygraph in July. Her home was searched, her car was searched, her phone was taken, her computer was taken. But she was the only one to get an attorney.
And so did Terry.
And yes. But out of all of her friends, she was the only one. And I think that that's also very telling, because why is she getting an attorney? I mean, her face wasn't even, well, I guess her face had been out there a while when she did finally get an attorney. But yeah, her home was searched in July. And then they even searched the property of her aunt's house there in Havita off of Bishop Road, because it was less than 5 miles away from Skyline. They've searched her Tualatin home. Law enforcement is not going to take the time to take your computer, to take your phone, to go search your house, to search your aunt's house and property. And her aunt's property is gigantic. And they're just not going to waste their time doing that if they don't feel like something is up. And during that time that they were doing those searches and passing out flyers and a questionnaire and everything else, several witnesses, according to Desiree Young, came forward and said that they saw 2 women passing things from one truck to another on Old Germantown Road. And that is where West Wind Farms is, right off of Old Germantown Road. And right around the corner from West Wind Farms is also a parking lot. It's actually where law enforcement kind of set up their unit to search that area. And it's quite big. And yeah, Terry could have came by and picked her up and taken her from the property, or DeDe could have parked something somewhere close, maybe that parking lot, maybe, somewhere off of Old Germantown Road. But her car, she left there that day with her phone. So she had to have found some other way to leave the property.
She left her car. She left her phone. but no one could find her. Now, she had her phone with her earlier that day. Seems to me on her way back to her car, she put the phone in the car and got picked up.
Well, she says that she left her phone in the car. She said on her interview with Blink on Crime that she got to work at 9. She left her lunchbox and she left her cell phone in the car, went inside and got her duties for the day. She said, and I read somewhere else that she did that because she didn't want to drop her phone in the mud. My question's always been like, how often did she leave her phone in the car? Was it just this day, or was that something that she regularly did? We don't know that. She's probably not going to come out and tell us. And if she did, would it even be the truth? I'm just curious if anybody that law enforcement talked to up there on that property, let them know, like, oh, she did that all the time. But because law enforcement acted the way that they did and even searched West Wind Farms for Kyron, tells me that they really thought she had something to do with Kyron's disappearance. They're not going to waste all their time. They have a missing boy to look for. So they're not going to waste their time doing all of this for nothing.
Time and money. They have a lot of money allocated to them, but they're not going to waste it chasing their tail. I could get a hold of Blink online right now and tell them my black Bombay cat is a calico, and they would report it.
Oh, I know. The only reason why I ever refer back to Blink on Crime, because don't get me wrong, I don't find all of their stuff verifiable. I really don't. The KGW News from here in Portland actually verified that she did do that interview with Blink on Crime. Now, Kyle Beloshi, he works for KGW. I don't know that he's the one who verified the information, but I do know that that particular channel has very closely watched Kyron's case. They've had many, many interviews with Kyron's parents. They do an amazing job following Kyron's case. And if I wouldn't have read that KGW actually verified this interview, I wouldn't have talked about it in my own live. Because I'm actually starting to really see that Blink on Crime, there's a lot of drama and there is a lot of rumors being spread by different things that they have put out there. Matter of fact, when I talked about my case studies earlier that I have done, I've come now to realize that almost every single one of those case studies that I had done originally stemmed from the rumors written by Blink on Crime. And I tell my admin all the time, like, I can't believe I fell for it. I can't believe I spent so long, but it's actually taught me a really good lesson. I think that I know how to verify information now, and I'm looking in the right direction now, and I think that that's all that matters.
Yeah. I'm a Mean Girl said they would waste their time if everyone was screaming Terry did it, right? Needed to look elsewhere after all this time. I see where you're going with that, and that seems to be a narrative that's out there. And I'm not judging you for that, because I understand it's totally frustrating. However, when you are law enforcement and you are put in charge of investigating a crime, it doesn't matter what the public says, because in the beginning, both Kane and Desiree were 100% on her side. She would never do anything. Tony as well. But through their investigation, trying to clear the inner circle, they realized something was up with Terry. Something was up with DeDe. She didn't volunteer the information about DeDe. They found it. And through finding out about DeDe, they stopped cooperating. I suggest anyone that's ever called to the police station, I don't care what it's for, you bring an attorney with you. And they'll tell you, no, you're being baited. You're being set up. They each have attorneys that they won't answer questions about Kyron. Make it make sense.
Well, after 13 years, they're not going to press charges because they don't even know what charges to press. Was Kyron kidnapped? Was Kyron murdered? Was Kyron sold? Until they find Kyron, or until something in the case breaks, they don't even know what to charge anyone with.
I'm a meme girl said, right, but she was cleared. Well, that's according to her giving this to an online publication. Have you called the number on the screen? They're going to say they haven't cleared. They're going to say
no, she has never been publicly cleared.
They're going to say, no, we still want to talk to him.
DeDe herself has even asked Ron Underhill back in the day to come forward and publicly clear her, and he never did, and no one has since.
Has learned testimony before a grand jury is expected to continue later this week. Our Kylie Boshi is live outside the Multnomah County Courthouse with the latest and more on who will be called. Kyle?
Joe, a friend of Terry Horman, is expected to testify later this week. She's been subpoenaed to appear on Thursday. According to the woman's father, this friend spoke with Terry Horman on June 4th, the day Kyron disappeared. Yesterday, the grand jury heard from the missing boy's parents. They left the courthouse without comment. Terry Horman's friend DeDe Spicher appeared briefly before the grand jury last week. Investigators have focused on Terry Horman's close circle of friends, searching their homes and seizing computers. The Oregonian newspaper reports one of them obtained new cell phones for Terry Horman to help avoid police scrutiny. Important to note, these grand jury proceedings are secret.
We still don't even know what the crime or crimes are. Are we talking about kidnapping all the way to a homicide without a body? Conspiracy? It's not clear what the crime or crimes are or who's involved.
Also today, the court set an August 25th hearing on Kane Horman's motion surrounding legal fees. He wants to know how his estranged wife is paying for her high-powered defense team.
So let's just say, for argument's sake, because I have never found anything saying that Terry and DeDe are cleared. Let's just say they are. Let's just say they are in the free and clear. Then that would be all the more reason to talk to investigators to find Kyron.
Yeah, exactly. And in that news clip too, where they're saying that she went before the grand jury, that was in July of 2010, and she was called before the grand jury, but they never questioned her. They never talked to her then. I don't know why. Like they said, you know, grand jury stuff is secret, but she goes on to tell in her interview with Blink on Crime that she talked to the grand jury and actually gave them testimony for 5.5 hours in July of 2013. And that's when she claims she was cleared, that she passed a polygraph, and that she was given immunity.
And why did she want immunity? And why did she refuse to answer over 100 questions?
Yeah, 142 questions that she did not answer and pled the fifth to in her deposition in 2012, when Desiree Young filed a lawsuit against Terry, wanted Terry to come forth with information on Kyron. So she did this suit. DeDe was involved with answering some questions, and yeah, she pled the fifth to 142 questions. Easy questions as easy as, do you know Kyron? Do you know Terry? Do you know Kane? Do you know who this is a picture of? Like you were saying, with a picture of Kyron. When on the day Kyron came up missing, she twittered on her Twitter account, "I know this boy. This is so, so scary." So she's already admitting to knowing who he is, but she won't say anything. that has anything to do with Kyron and Terry in the deposition that she did in 2012?
Not at all.
And I mean, pleading the fifth too, I am also starting to learn that you can plead the fifth to questions simply because later on, if something were to go to court, you don't want that information to be used against you. So there's lots of reasons why people plead the fifth. The way I feel about it is there's a missing child. They're asking you questions about this missing child. Answer the questions. You know, help law enforcement determine, you know, who's guilty, who's not guilty, who they need to prosecute, who they need to go after, who they need to arrest. Just, you know, give some kind of information somewhere along the line. But as far as I know, her attorney told her to plead the fifth so that nothing she answered a question to could be used against her later down the road. And as far as her immunity goes, lots of people have talked about the fact that it had to do with unemployment fraud because she was on unemployment while she was working at West Wind Farms. She declined taking any money from Miss Hawkinsmith, her boss, but she insisted on giving her money anyway, so she took it. And right there, you know, she had the opportunity to turn into unemployment that she got paid for doing a job and she didn't. And yeah, so later on, she could have gotten in trouble for unemployment fraud. After looking into this more with my new admin, I don't think that she got immunity for unemployment fraud. I have found statements that say things like, you know, she gave up all the information that she knew, or to that effect. I don't have it in front of me right now, but it just sounds like she gave them information about something, and that's what gave her immunity.
We do want to get you updated in the search for missing 7-year-old Kyron Horman. After getting thousands of tips, the investigation now appears to have gone full circle, and we're told an arrest could be right around the corner. Correspondent Priya David Clemens is in Portland this morning with the latest. Priya, good morning.
Erica, good morning to you. Investigators have fielded 3,300 tips from around the world, and yet Saturday they ended up back here at Skyline Elementary School where the little boy was last seen. Police say the person who saw him last, his stepmother, Terry Horman, could hold the key to bringing him home. Investigators returned to Skyline Elementary School over the weekend, searching for clues that might lead them to Kyron Horman.
He's still out there. He's still out there. We just need to find him.
Officials say they've made significant progress in the criminal investigation, but are not releasing any details. In a written response to journalists' questions, they say Kyron's stepmother, Terry Horman, quote, has been cooperative, and other times she has not. Since hiring a defense attorney on June 28th, she's been silent.
If the investigative team found out what happened to Kyron, Terry Horman would be arrested imminently.
Kyron's parents have begged Terry to talk. They're also pleading with her close friend, DeDe Spicher, to cooperate. They claim Spicher is giving Terry advice that's not in the best interests of their son. Last week, the FBI searched Spicher's home.
So give your side of the story, please, DeDe.
New questions are still emerging about Terry Horman's actions the day her stepson disappeared. Several hours remain unexplained. She claimed she left Kyron at school at 8:45, and at 11:39, she went to the gym. In that 3-hour gap, she said she went shopping and driving her 19-month-old daughter around to soothe an earache. But that has not been corroborated by anyone.
I can tell you what I ate that day, and she can't tell you where she was.
She posted Kyron's picture on her Facebook.
Okay, this is so important, not just in this case, but other cases that we follow. When someone who is, I'm not saying they're a suspect, but they are suspected, because there's a difference. They lose track of time. They can't tell you where they were or why they went there. And then you have people that are 100% not involved, and they're like, I can tell you everything I did that day. Listen to
Yeah,
Debbie again.
Anyone.
I can tell you what I ate that day, and she can't tell you where she was.
She posted Kyron's picture on her Facebook page that afternoon. Kyron was reported missing 7 hours after he vanished.
All these.
And they love using social media to prove to everyone that nothing's going on. We have seen it in other cases. What do you make of that, Samantha?
I think it's very strange and unusual, everything she did as far as social media. I would have used Facebook or the internet as a tool to help find Kyron, but she uses her Facebook to talk about certain things that she did, where she was, what she was doing. Like, they mentioned that she had went to the gym, even though Kane also went with her to the gym. But like, you have her June 5th emails that all came out, talking, she's just like putting out this narrative and all of these different ideas, saying, his backpack and coat were left at the school. There was a male chaperone with 2 girls that saw him after I left. And she keeps this narrative going, trying to throw out all of these different ideas. I told the teacher something, how could she get that wrong, talking about the doctor's appointment, because she's saying that the doctor's appointment that she had was the day before. And then she is in the news, online news comments, following these news stations online. And then she's commenting in those news articles where people would go online to talk about certain things that were going on in the news. She's in there talking to people. Why is she stalking these online news things? Like, I do not get that one at all. I actually found it in an old news clip, and I was just stunned because, yeah, she's throwing out these emails and she's doing all of the stuff online, and it's just crazy to be out there doing all of that. Why wasn't she focusing on finding Kyron?
Well, we've seen it with other cases. I mean, we saw it with Casey Anthony. We saw it with Candace Wells. We saw it with Megan Boswell. We saw it with Letitia Stout. They'll attack the media and say, you've got it wrong, but they won't sit down with them. They got to work up the nerve, and then they shut down and don't cooperate.
Yeah, and the way she controls the narrative with the media and her emails was just is so strange and weird. Like, just all of the different things that she would talk about to already get people to start thinking other things. And if you look back on everything that some of the Terry supporters say, all come from all of these ways that she tried to control the narrative. They all bring up all of this different stuff that was told in the beginning, and all of those things were said by Terry herself to throw it off. She started mentioning, oh, Kyron must have wandered off. She actually posted on her Facebook, before Kyron even came up missing, a picture taken of his classroom. And then she posts on her Facebook, oh, look, Kyron's not there. He must have wandered off again and went to the bathroom or something. And it blew me away. I just saw this like not even a month ago. And I'm like, wow, she's already setting up the narrative for him to be wandering off. She mentions the chaperone. God, there's a few different, like, she comes up with different suspects. She said that Rudy Sanchez had something to do with it. She said there was a guy at 7-Eleven in a van asking about, where the nearest school was. Well, that was before Kyron even came up missing. And she must have just heard about it and used it to her advantage during that time.
And I'm not doing case, I'm not doing case comparison, but we've seen it in other cases where the suspicious has blamed everyone around them. And the cases that I mentioned are good examples. I mean, Megan Boswell, she's getting ready to go to trial for the murder of her daughter. She blamed her mom, who's a piece of shit, the mom's boyfriend, who's a piece of shit, Evelyn's father, basically anyone she could think of, she blamed them. We have, Don and Candace Wells. They are not in jail. They're not awaiting trial. They have pointed the finger everywhere and don't cooperate. Letitia Stout made up some of the craziest stories you'll ever hear. And that is suspicious.
Kyron was reported missing 7 hours after he vanished.
All these things add up to a human being that doesn't make sense.
Now, the Multnomah County Sheriff is expected to speak tomorrow after several weeks of silence, which has many here hoping for some answers or a break in the case soon. Erica.
Priya, thanks. Priya, David Clemens in Portland this morning.
And that man right there that was talking, that C.W. Jensen, he's a homicide detective, and he came out with a statement, and he said there were 3 people that came up missing on June 4th, 2010. Kyron Horman, DeDe Spicher, and Terry Horman. He said, to me, that says one thing. They're all connected. And he is a huge homicide detective over there. I think since he's retired, I'm not sure about that, or maybe he just doesn't work in Portland, but he's been around for years and years and years. And he has spoken about this case several times. He's never detoured away from saying that he thinks that Terry is responsible for the disappearance, if not death, of Kyron Horman.
That's a lot. And one detective I absolutely adore is Bruce McCain.
Joining us now from Portland, Oregon is attorney Bruce McCain. He's a former captain in the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. He retired just last year. Good to have you with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Erica, for having me.
There are new reports out that Terry Horman told her stepson Kyron's teachers on the morning he disappeared that he had a doctor's appointment later that day. She claims she said she alerted them to the appointment, which was going to happen the following Friday. I know you look at that information, you say there's something that doesn't work here.
Well, yeah, it's actually quite significant because this was actually the last day of school. So a doctor's appointment the following Friday would have been pretty irrelevant to the school. But the critical thing about this June 4th doctor's appointment is that put the school in the position of not being concerned at all that Kyron was not in his class, wasn't at lunch, and wasn't on the bus that afternoon. So it looks like, at least this point, Terry was able to bring Kyron to school, establish his presence there, and then perhaps take him away. At least that's the theory they're working on, without the school picking up the phone and calling Kane at work, for example.
So, and we should point out again, she is not a suspect at this point. But as you're putting that together, you spent many years, obviously, with the sheriff's department. Does that tell you that there could be some sort of premeditated plan here?
Well, obviously that looks like it very much would be a planned issue, especially with the deceptive answers she gave later about, gee, I think I meant June 11th, which would have been long after the school was already out. So the key right now is going back and focusing and reconstructing every hour and minute that she spent on that fateful June 4th to find out exactly where the holes are in her original story.
And part of that timeline is a 3-hour block of time where we're not really sure what was happening between the time she dropped Kyron off the last time she saw him at school and when she showed up at the gym. There's also a 90-minute window that a friend of hers, DeDe Spicher, around that same time is being questioned about. What do you make of those gaps?
Well, again, those are very significant, especially given the close relationship between DeDe and Terry. And once again, the investigators right now seem to be putting pressure on Terry's closest friends, associates, and family to basically tell them it's time to get on the right side of this issue. And DeDe right now seems to be on Terry's side, and we'll see how long that lasts. But that critical 90 minutes for both of them is where they seem to be focusing their efforts on the June 4th day.
And speaking of Dede, her home has been searched. Kyron's mother and father say she's hampering the investigation. The sheriff's department, though, did recently come out and answer some questions from journalists via email. They've been quiet for a little while. One of them that really stuck out was a question about whether or not they have any information to believe Kyron is alive. They didn't answer it directly.
Yeah, I think that actually is very significant, partly because of this email questions. Again, this has been a very, very strange and frustrating public relations piece from my former employer. But what we have is they took 3 days to carefully parse those answers. And you're absolutely right, Eric, is that the question was, do you have any information to believe he's alive? And they could not bring themselves to say yes. The best they could do is, we continue to hope. And frankly, that puts the sheriff's office in the same position as thousands of Oregonians and others around the country that are looking for Kyron.
Based on your experience, the number of years you spent there with the department, what do you think may have happened?
Well, the bottom line is Kyron is either alive or dead, and that's the blunt truth right now. So right now, the key is to try to put pressure on Terry, and perhaps through an arrest on an unrelated criminal episode. This would be the murder for hire plot. And using that, they could potentially leverage the truth about Kyron out of him, out of both of the people that were involved in this. But right now, Kyron is simply missing, and nobody, including investigators, seem to know what happened to him.
Bruce McCain, appreciate your insight. Thanks.
Okay. Children don't just disappear. It doesn't work that way. If they wander off, they hear people yelling for them, or something happens to them, and their body is found. We have had children around my area that they wander off. You know, they're curious about the pond or the lake or the river, but they're found. We've seen it in East Tennessee. 2 children, just in the last couple of months, wandered off. We saw one in Florida not long before that was wandering around trying to find his way back home. And he was found. Or they're found above the ground, and unfortunately, they're deceased. Children do not just disappear. Unless
Yeah, I think if he would have wandered off, he would have been found.
Yeah. It doesn't work that way. Adults can disappear. They can go off grid. They have survival skills. Children do not. Children yell if the crust is not cut off their sandwiches.
Kane and Desiree have even said that they don't even see him leaving with a stranger or somebody because he was just so shy. So I don't even know if he would walk off with a stranger. And yeah, the way that they searched that 2-mile area around the school, the way they were so on top of doing that, I believe that if Kyron would have wandered off, even fell into a pond and drowned, or just wandered off, he would have been found, dead or alive, if he would have been in that 2-mile radius. I don't believe that he just wandered off. I think they would have found him if he had.
They find children when they wander off, even if it takes, there was a child in Colorado. The mother had a broken ankle as she was crawling to get help. And the snow was coming down so much they couldn't get to her child. Well, he died from hypothermia because children can dehydrate fast. One of my sons, he had a bad stomach flu. And we went to the doctor at 2:00. He had to go to the hospital to get an IV. Children are not built the same way we are, particularly at the age that Kyron is. If he was wandering around trying to find the school, then they would have found him on the ground. If someone other than the person that sent the emails to family members, meaning Terry, didn't have something to do with it, at this age of social media, he would realize, well, my name is Kyron Horman.
Yeah, and Jason Gates, one of the investigators, he even thought, okay, maybe, Kyron decided he wanted to go look at tree frogs or something and was going to go across the street over to the pond. And that's one of the reasons why they searched the pond. I mean, they absolutely did everything they can or could to find Kyron in that area. And they did it so quickly, and they did it with so many people, and they did it with horseback. They did it with four-wheelers. They had helicopters. They had search dogs. They had over 600 people. They would have found him there.
And this was a very, very, very busy day. A lot's going on. If some random stranger just grabbed him, somebody would have seen.
Yeah, Kane even said, you have all of these kids that go to school with each other. This isn't a regular like kindergarten through 6th grade. I think it's like kindergarten through 8th grade, actually. And so you have all these kids at school. You have all of their parents. They're all doing their science fair projects. Everybody knows everybody in this small community. The school isn't as big as everybody thinks. It's only about 250 feet long. It's really not that big of a school. You can literally see through the whole entire hallway from standing at one door, down the hallway, you can see across the entire school. And if Kyron would have left with somebody that none of those parents knew or recognized or anything, somebody would have been saying something. He's not going to walk out of that school with a stranger without somebody noticing. I mean, Terry was seen leaving with Kyron, and that's because she was noticed. There are witnesses that saw him leave with Terry. And then in the Bruce McCain, I just want to clarify something from that news clip. There were lots of people talking about the last day of school, and one of it was the fact that June 4th was the last day of school, like he mentioned. But actually, the last day of school was June 15th. And that right there just goes to show, here you have an investigator, a good investigator, a retired investigator. Matter of fact, we think he passed away in 2015 because we recently just found an obituary for Bruce McCain. But that is just one way to show how fast rumor or conversations spread, and it spread so fast and so quickly, and nobody ever took the time to correct it, that even Bruce McCain is on the news saying that June 4th was the last day of school, even though it wasn't until June 15th. And that's the way it's been with this entire case. Rumor and conversations that just get controlled and way out of hand. And that's where you have, all of these different things. That's what me and my admin have been trying to do more recently, is just one thing at a time. We're going to show this one is a rumor. This one was made up. This one was just a conversation that went too far, turned into rumor, because we're constantly getting asked questions about particular things. And we're answering those questions now, and we're able to show for a fact. Just like yesterday, I found something from Desiree Young that confirmed that one of the teachers, because this is the rumor been going around, that one of the teachers allowed Kyron to leave with a man from school to go put something in his vehicle. Like, he walked up to the teacher, hey, can I use Kyron to come take this, to my truck? And then Desiree's commenting in this group, like, where did this even come from? This is not true. This did not happen. This is not confirmed. And that's just one of those rumors that we're constantly asked about. Well, couldn't he have been taken by that man that talked to the teacher, a teacher's not going to let a child leave with a parent that isn't his parent or any adult. And if that teacher did, holy cow, would they be in so much trouble. There's no cover up. There's no conspiracy theory going on with the teachers up there at that school. This teacher did not allow Kyron to leave with a man to go put it in their car. It's absolutely absurd.
And you're right. The rumors in this case have been nuts. And rumors, we want the truth. We want the truth on this channel. And teachers didn't feel the need to contact Kane or Terry because they had been told that he had a doctor's appointment. And if anyone knows a busy teacher, if they see a child has left a coat or backpack behind, they're not going to be at high alert saying, oh, he left his project behind, or he left his backpack behind, or oh, he forgot his jacket. They're going to take care of it on the next school day. They're not going to start calling the house going, oh my gosh, he might need his backpack. They're not going to do it.
Well, there was actual talk about him coming back for the talent show. And so I think if the teacher would have seen his coat and backpack, she was just assuming, okay, he had his doctor's appointment and he's going to be in the talent show today. So, you know, it's probably here because he's coming back for the talent show. But there has been a lot of wishy-washy. I don't want to put that out there 100% because there's a lot of going back and forth. One of them being Terry saying, you know, that wasn't what it was going to be. And then you have Desiree saying something else. And of course, I believe Desiree over Terry any day. But I'm just saying there's no verifiable information out there one way or another to know whether or not he was supposed to come back for the talent show. Only a child that was supposed to do this joke with Kyron at the talent show. And that's what he said. I waited all day long for Kyron to come back because we were supposed to do the talent show together. So, I mean, the coat and the backpack being at school wasn't a big deal if the teacher looked up. If they knew he was coming back for the talent show, it wasn't a big deal. But if that wasn't the case, then you have Terry there again, being able to control that narrative. Like his backpack in school, you know, his coat and backpack were left at the school all day long. Why did you think that he was with me? Being able to point the finger away from herself in a way.
Now, the protocol at Skyline Elementary was not a sign-in, sign-out process in 2010, from what I understand. You could speak directly to the teacher and say, we have this going on, this going on, this going on. Of course, it's not like that anymore.
Right. And Terry actually worked up there at the school, volunteered up at the school. She knew the teacher, you know. So I just assume that if she were to tell Miss Porter, hey, he's got a doctor's appointment, she's going to take her word for it. And that's that. But that again also shows that Terry knew that school. She knew there were no cameras at that school. She knew how busy the science fair day was going to be. And again, I'll point out, there's a science fair going on that day. And here you got DeDe working for a place who has a show the very next day. So you got two women missing the same time, both on busy days for those particular places where they were, the school and West Wind Farms. And I just find that to be like another coincidence. But she knew that school inside and out. She took Kyron down to the soccer field to play soccer. I mean, she just really knew the school and knew the staff. So I don't think she thought anybody was going to question anything. And she knew she wasn't going to be seen taking Kyron from school. And if she was seen by witnesses or whatever, she could just either simply deny it, and then it's their word against hers, I guess.
Well, I used to volunteer at my kids' school too, my boys. And if they had to be picked up for a doctor's appointment or they were leaving early for something, I didn't sign in and out of the office. And this was in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, because they knew me. And I'm going to keep my word. You know, I would just walk by.
Yeah, I don't think that the teachers up there thought for even a second Kyron's going to be gone forever this day.
No, not at all. But the protocol has changed there.
Oh, yeah. There's cameras up at the school now. Back then, they didn't have that, you know, emergency call system or whatever, like, hey, your child was absent from school this day, that does the phone call. They have that set up there now. Yeah, I don't, that entire school changed everything after that.
Well, there's a difference between people that know you and people that don't. It's like when my son was in band. We're at a high school game, and my son was in band. And I said, okay, Craig, you know, it's time to go. That's my oldest son. And we left, and we got home, and his band teacher was calling, and he was stressed out. He was like, have you seen Craig? I said, yeah, we came home. And he goes, why? He goes, I have to check all the kids out. And I said, oh, well, he's right here. And I felt horrible because he was in a panic. All right, let's get to part of this Dateline episode.
Stepmom, little things at first. One by one, 3 parents becoming concerned about the 4th.
I thought that something must not be right.
Then a stunning revelation.
Do you think she is capable of hurting a child?
Based on what I know now, I think anything is possible.
Kane left for his job as a software engineer at Intel. Kane's wife, Terry, Kyron's stepmother, took Kyron to school in her white pickup truck. They went early so they could tour the science fair exhibits together with the other parents and kids before the first bell. Later that day, Kyron's stepmom, Terry, posted this photo on her Facebook account of her beaming stepson next to his completed science project.
Steph saw him, you know, with his stepmom and, you know, looking at his exhibits and, you know, just like the other families who were here.
Terry Horman said around 8:45 in the morning, the last time she saw her stepson, Kyron, he was walking down this hallway in his school on his way to his 2nd grade classroom.
It's unclear exactly who, if anyone, saw him after that point or where. But Ms. Porter started class as usual, reading group, then recess, then lunch. At some point in the day, Kyron was marked absent. At 3 p.m., it was time for the school buses to line up. Kids tired from a full day.
Now, the teacher would not have just marked him absent unless she had been told he had something else going on. Had he not just shown back up to class, phone calls would have been made. She marked him.
Yeah, I believe that.
Because she was told that he had a doctor's appointment. Let me turn on the closed captions. Some people can't hear it, and I feel bad for that. Everyone uses a different device. Schools have changed now to where every child has got to be accounted for. Every one of them. There's a head count. I didn't grow up like that. I mean, hell, half the kids could be left on the playground when we came back in, and the teacher would come out and just start whipping their ass and put them back in the class.
I know times have changed, haven't they?
But in 2010, if you have an email from a parent saying he has a doctor's appointment that day, they're just going to mark you absent, and that's it. They're not going to call the police and say, oh, he left his backpack. They're not going to call other family members and say, does he really have a doctor's appointment?
All great points. I mean, it just doesn't seem like the teachers at the school are responsible in any way, shape, or form for Kyron disappearing, in my opinion, because Desiree Young is saying there was an email sent to the school the day before excusing him from school the 4th. Miss Porter has came out and said she thought he had a doctor's appointment that day, that is what Terry told her. You just heard Bruce McCain say law enforcement thought he had a doctor's appointment that day. He even said it looked planned by Terry Horman. This is a planned out, in my opinion, thing that Terry Horman did so that when he wasn't there at school, the teachers wouldn't think twice about it and not make phone calls to Kane, not call Terry, and then they go to the bus stop and he doesn't get off.
And particularly since she was in communication with her emails, she was asking about his behavior in classroom. What color is he today? So they were in constant communication. So there would be no reason not to trust her.
Yeah, Kane said that she was taking the color code system to an extreme and wanting Kane to punish Kyron if the certain color for the day wasn't one of the good colors, because this coloring code had like, he did really well at school today, or, and then it just went up from there to like, Kyron had a bad day, wasn't paying attention, or was disruptive in class, and those kinds of things. And when he would get these other other colors, she was wanting Kane to discipline him for these things. And he said she was taking that to an extreme. Well, and at the same time, you have her drinking all of the time. She's passing out on the couch, according to Kane. The baby's running around the house. She is starting to take medication for depression. Kane said something about postpartum depression on top of that. So you have all of these things going on. And yeah, it didn't look like she was very happy with Kyron and wasn't treating him too well. And then comes up with all of these lies about, how he was acting and how he was spacing off when he walked into a room and all of this other stuff that none of the other parents saw. Tony, Desiree, Kane, none of them saw him act the way that Terry was saying. At one point in time, Kane said something like, if anybody had seen that, it could have been because the baby had an earache and she was up crying a lot at night, and maybe she had been keeping them all up. So maybe he was just tired, but I never seen him have any of that go on. And none of them said anything about mini seizures. Nothing. They've never confirmed it.
No.
They filed on board and plopped down in their seats, all but one.
Immediately called Terry, and I cussed a little bit, said, "What the hell is going on?" And she said that they went to the science fair and everything was fine, and she waved goodbye to him and he went into his class, or so she thought.
All four parents were gathered together: Kane and Terry, Desiree and Tony. Tony has had a unique perspective from day one. He's not only Kyron's stepfather, he's also a police detective back in Medford. And tonight, he's speaking out for the first time.
I was watching the investigation right from the start.
Tony says that first night, because he knows so much about how police operate, he was walking the family through what to expect.
I explained to each person that now our lives are not private anymore, that the investigators are going to want to know very detailed information about our lives.
That's when Tony noticed something unsettling. He says Terry, Kyron's stepmom, seemed to bristle at the idea that she would be questioned.
Okay, and let's get something straight. Kane was at work all day. Verified at Intel.
Yep.
Desiree was 4 hours away in Medford, as was Tony.
Yeah, Tony was actually like up on a mountain doing something with his work. It was some kind of party they were having. He didn't even have cell phone service. When it happened, Desiree had to call a landline and have Tony come to the phone because his cell phone wasn't even within reach, or in reach of like a cell phone tower or whatever. And she was verified to be at work when she got the call that he had been missing, and she had been there all morning long. All parents, you know, Kane even talks on an HLN show about how Desiree, Tony, and him have been cleared, not publicly, just like DeDe Spicher, but as far as law enforcement is concerned, cleared.
Well, the last news break we had said that they're fully cooperating, but the two that are not is Terry and DeDe. And we see it in every case. In every case. Somebody that does not cooperate in a child's disappearance has something to answer for. And then on top of this, missing time, and you have a woman who is very upset with her life.
Yeah, and I mean, anybody that watches any type of true crime shows or has any knowledge of it whatsoever, who's the number one person they're going to start looking into if they start seeing deception? If they start seeing someone lying and changing their story, especially as much as Terry was, they're going to hone in on her. And that's exactly what they did. Even though she's never been called a person of interest or a suspect, she is still the person that they have been looking into for 13 years. But that doesn't mean nothing's going to happen to her just because it's been 13 years. They're just waiting. One of the problems right now is this district attorney not wanting to move forward. That's a problem, and hopefully he's voted out soon. But I also think it has a lot to do with the money in Multnomah County. I think that a case like this is going to take up a lot of that county's money, and they're waiting to have the money that they need to be able to move forward, knowing they have enough money to keep going. Because let's not forget, Terry lawyered up with one of the best attorneys in Oregon, and he's going to be good at trying to postpone things, hold things out, and make a very long, drawn out trial. So Multnomah County needs to make sure they have enough money to keep moving forward with this high paid attorney.
Mean Girl said Terry said Kyron was acting strangely, but yet he disappeared right before he could be seen by a doctor. Maybe he was being abused by someone in the family or at school, and they were afraid of getting found out. Well, then cooperate. It's been 13 years. If somebody at the home was abusing him, then just cooperate. Your attorney will let you cooperate. Attorneys don't like their clients going to jail. They prefer money.
And after everything that Terry's ever said, she has never, no matter how many lies she has ever put out, Terry herself has never said that Kyron was being abused, was physically abused, was sexually abused, was ever abused in any way, shape, or form. Ever. And I think that if something like that was going on, and she seems to be the center of this investigation, she would have already said something about that by now, but she hasn't.
KB said, well, she didn't care enough to protect her daughter she abandoned from the same potential fate if she thought Kyron was being abused. And that's a great point. If she knew that there was abuse in that home, and I know a lot of people point at Kane, who is still taking care of his daughter. She goes to the same school. then why would she not fight for her flesh and blood, her daughter? She moved down to California and married this one dude.
Yeah, she's completely given up on her daughter. You know, she has never done anything that she was supposed to do to try to get her visitation, according to Kane. She's never done anything to see her. She just flat out abandons him. That's never talked about. But here, yet, you know, you have Terry, she's abandoning her child, and she kicked out her own son. And people want to go after Desiree because she didn't have custody of either one of her boys. Just because a person doesn't have full custody of their child doesn't make them a bad parent. It means that a judge saw something and agreed with another parent, and saw something could be anything. You know, one parent had more money than the other, or maybe it was just in the best interest of the child to be at a particular place. Maybe the judge didn't have all the information that they needed to be able to determine where the child should go 100%. So they just make a decision.
Or it could be that Desiree was too sick. You know, I mean, there is such a thing as co-parenting. People do get divorced. And it has been said that, you know, Kane and Terry were together when Desiree was pregnant with Kyron. And
yeah, but that was a rumor spread by Terry. Terry was the one who started making up these rumors with all of her friends that she was the nanny working at the house and that she was friends with Desiree and stuff. But that is another one of those rumors. We actually just played that on one of our last lives, where a reporter is asking them questions about it, and Kane and Desiree both say that that was all rumor spread by Terry. And, you know, Desiree has custody now of her son, Quinn, because of the emails that Terry was sending to Quinn's stepmother. And she was able to use those emails in court to get custody of her son. And after she came back from Canada for her, Desiree, when she came back from Canada, her and Kane actually talked, and they decided to let Kyron stay with Kane because he was doing so well. I think later on there was something, then she tried to go to court to get custody of him or something. I've never seen any of that information, but I have, you know, seen and been able to verify that they just agreed to let him have Kyron because he was doing so well. And that's a great little community for him to be in. The thing is, she didn't know all of the inside scoop of what was actually going on in the home with Terry drinking and the way she had changed and everything so much. And this hatred for Kyron. You know, Terry even mentioned to Kane letting Kyron go live with Desiree, and Kane said no. And that was about a year before Kyron came up missing. There was this talk between Desiree and Terry, and yeah, Terry asked Kane about it, and he was just like, no, not going to happen. So it just didn't happen. And I think that was Terry's way, for whatever her feeling she was having towards Kyron or whatever, she was wanting that to happen.
Well, and she was upset with her older son, James. And I mean, you know, what she was communicating with people is she just wanted the house to be herself, their daughter, and Kane. And that was it. So basically, I mean, all the other kids can just go away.
Right. And I think getting rid of James was also part of her plan, and getting rid of Kyron or Kane, because after he's sent away, a month later is when she allegedly hired the landscaper to kill Kane. That was just a month after James left. And if she's plotting anything at all, then she's not going to want James in the house to hear anything, to see anything, because he was a teenage boy. He would have been able to figure things out much easier than any of the young children in the house. But I do think that he was part of her plan. And then she goes off to the gym and she tells everyone at the gym that Kane kicked him out. And she kicked him out while Kane was out of the house. He was out of town working when she made him leave. And James,
if she cares so much about James, then why on earth was she driving around drunk with him in the car? It is a court record.
Yep.
Here's her mugshot.
Yep. She tries so hard to portray herself as like this perfect mom, when in actuality, she's just not. You can see all of the evidence is just there. Maybe she tried to be a good mom, but she wasn't being a good mom. You know, James himself even said he wasn't getting along with his mom, that they butted heads, but that his relationship with Kane, they would argue every huge now and again, but him and Kane got along great. A matter of fact, after Kyron came up missing, James moved back in with Kane and stayed with him until he was older. And it wasn't until 2018 somebody told Kane that James had taken a picture of the baby. Well, she wasn't a baby anymore, but took a picture of her and had sent it to Terry, and that Kane found out about it and kicked him out. So it's very telling to know that Kane let the son of the person who he thinks is responsible for the disappearance of his son, Kyron, letting his stepson, James, move into the home with him for many years after Kyron disappeared. And I don't know if it's true that James took the picture and sent it to Terry. Terry is not supposed to have any of that stuff. There's like a restraining order and stuff, but you know, he got upset and somebody said it, and that kind of ended him and Kane's relationship. And that really sucks, because as far as I know, James and Kane were really close. So when she's going around telling everybody Kane kicked him out, Kane and him don't get along, Kane made him leave, yada yada, is just a bunch of crap, because they had a great relationship and she still made him leave and then hires Rudy a month later
to get rid of Kane.
Yep.
When all 4 family members submitted to lie detector tests, Tony tells Dateline he noticed right away that something wasn't gelling for detectives because they asked Terry Horman to submit to a polygraph more than once.
I thought that something must not be right. Something must not be allowing them to check her off their list.
Isn't it possible, though, that she was just nervous that she didn't pass her lie detector test with flying colors because she was emotional or upset?
There's more to it than just that. The information that you're giving, does it hit your ear and sound right? Does it make sense?
She wasn't making sense.
Not from the information I heard from her.
She couldn't explain to them for about 2 hours worth of time where she was or what she was doing.
And there was something else that gave Desiree and Tony a sinking feeling that something wasn't right. They say Terry's cell phone records apparently didn't match up with where she said she was on the morning of Kyron's disappearance.
That, to me, is strike 2. That's huge. There's starting to be some structural problems with what she's saying at that point. And then it continues to stack up.
As part of the investigation's new focus, law enforcement distributed a flyer asking people if they had seen Kyron the day he went missing. But the flyer caught people's attention for another reason. It featured a picture of Kyron's stepmother, Terry Horman, and the white pickup she'd driven Kyron to school in that day, and even included the question, did you see Terry Horman at or near the school? Scratch the surface and a more complicated portrait of Terry Horman emerges. 5 years ago, she was convicted of drunk driving and pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment because her older son was in the car with her at the time. Kane says police informed him of a harrowing discovery. About 6 months before Kyron went missing, Kane's wife, Terry, had allegedly tried to hire a landscaper to kill him.
I didn't believe it at first. It was something that I couldn't even wrap my head around at the time.
There'd been no indication in your marriage that things were that bad or that she was upset with you?
No.
It was a pivotal moment for Kane, the moment he stopped trusting his own wife.
Do you think she is capable of hurting a child?
If you asked me before this situation, my answer is no. Based on what I know now, I don't know. I think anything is possible based on the way things have gone over the past few weeks.
Do you fear for your safety now, Kane, for your daughter?
I fear for my daughter.
Do you think that Terry has more information than she's told investigators so far
Yes.
about where Kyron is?
Yes.
And so your message to her now is what, Kane?
Fully cooperate with law enforcement. Tell the truth.
When I heard that, that made the decision in my mind. At the fork in the road, we knew which road to go down.
It was enough for Desiree to finally say in public what she had been thinking in private for weeks.
We implore Terry Horman to fully cooperate with the investigators to bring Kyron home.
I absolutely believe that Terry Horman is responsible for Kyron's disappearance.
And I do too.
With help? Did someone help her?
We personally think that's the case.
Do you think Terry Horman planned to do something?
Something with
To
Kyron?
Kyron?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And remember, investigators talk to victims' families in a way they don't talk to the public, because they don't want other children in danger in the family.
Oh yeah, parents are privy to much more information than other people. I mean, I think Kyron or Kane and Desiree and Tony, I think they know a lot more than they're allowed to speak of, which, you know, I think that's reason why they come to the different conclusions that they have about Terry. You know, Kane is he really tries to hold on to this idea that Kyron is alive and they're going to find him. And, you know, he goes that route as he's alive. I'm going to find my son. Desiree, you hear her talk that he's alive, but you also hear her talk about him being gone. And a lot of the searches that she has done, they are looking for an unalive Kyron, which is very sad, you know, and it's got to be hard to do, to be out there like physically searching the area out there. And, you know, that possibility of finding something that proves that her son is gone forever. You know, she doesn't want to find that information, but she's willing to do what she's got to do, you know, to get out there and do that. And
at this point, we're not talking about who is the better parent or who had what going on in 2005. We're not talking about, oh, you're just going to pin it on someone. Well, if police want to pin something on someone, they'll do it. But there is something going on here. And I think it's the no cooperation from Terry and DeDe. They're the ones with the missing timeline. Because Terry was communicating with the teacher on her personal email. She would even,
and no one could
even
corroborate DeDe's, you know, unaccounted time. DeDe simply was missing, and no one but her can say what she was doing during that time. She says, I was on West Wind Farms, but nobody can corroborate that. No one.
And we have to admit, over the last few years, there's been a lot of stuff going on in Portland. They have I mean, they have their cards stacked with other stuff going on.
I just found the other day. Oh my goodness. I was so happy to hear that they just did a search for Kyron. And it was only like, I think I said 7 months ago when I found this. The new sheriff is in Portland now. Desiree went and talked with the new sheriff. And in the same article, it said that weeks prior to them having their conversation with each other, there was a search for Kyron. So even 13 years later, these detectives, Multnomah County is not giving up on looking for Kyron. They are not. And what I also find very crazy is they looked west a lot, but their focus, their last few searches. Now, I don't know if it's because they have some kind of information. I know forensic stuff has been talked about since 2017, having new forensic evidence. But their searches now have been more east of the school, which is in the area where DeDe Spicher worked. And you also have Stacy Green, who runs a Facebook group called Kyron Horman World Soldiers. She's one of Desiree Young's friends. She's been to all of his searches. She goes and does the car washes and helps raise money and everything else. And for whatever reason, she's on Facebook for the last 6 months or so, screaming that there is new evidence that proves that DeDe Spicher killed Kyron for Terry. I am not saying that that information is true. I am just saying this person that is very close to Desiree is saying this. And I don't know what quite to think about it. It's, you know, you want to know what new evidence, but of course we're not going to be able to know that new evidence at all. But here you have them searching just 7 months ago too. And it's like, they're just searching 7 months ago. And over the past 6 months, there's this new evidence that this person's claiming's out there that DeDe killed Kyron. So I am just like, I've just been blown away by it. The whole last 6 months is just crazy. I mean, you even got Terry talking now again on her Facebook after, 12, 13 years. She just pops up and all of a sudden starts talking. It's like she's just trying to collect her minions to, be out there and protest against, if she gets arrested or something. It's just all crazy. This last year's been crazy.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much to you for being here and keeping up the good fight for Kyron, because it's very hard after all this time to keep a child's name out. And you're doing tremendous work. And Angel, thank you so much for making it rain. Give me a second. And I don't know what it is, Samantha. You and I can do a show together and it can go on for 8 hours.
Me and my admin, I actually have somebody coming on my lives with me now, and me and her have had some really long 3 and 4 hour show because we can just like keep going. But I love it every time you invite me over to come do a show. I love doing it. I was told by the detective that the best thing that I could do was pass out flyer and keep Kyron's name alive. So that's what I'm doing. I feel like it's the most important thing to do. We got to keep talking about Kyron. We got to keep having lives. We got to keep sharing his face and telling his story, because that's Kyron telling his story. Whether people like it or not, and the narrative seems to be pointing more towards Terry, that can upset people. It cannot upset people. But when we have to follow leads, and the fact of the matter is she's lied and she has changed her story over and over and over again. And her nor DeDe cooperated in the beginning. Terry, not even now. I don't know what this immunity thing is with DeDe. Hopefully she flipped and told law enforcement or the grand jury what they needed to know so that they can use it against Terry later on. I don't know. But I really appreciate you, always inviting me over so that I can talk about Kyron, because it really is important to share his story. And yeah, I'm just really thankful to have people like you, in my life that want to invite me over to do shows, because I'll do shows with anybody. And we have Kyron Horman Case Revisited YouTube channel. We do a bunch of videos in the area where Kyron came up missing. We go to a school. We go to places where eyewitnesses may have seen something happen. We've got our live shows over there, book reads over there. Everybody go over and check it out. If you aren't from the area, don't know what the area looks like, the videos give you a great perspective. I'm hoping someday maybe someone will see something and go, oh my gosh, I remember this and this and this. And then they end up calling the tip line and telling Multnomah County, a tip. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then we have our Facebook group, Kyron Horman Case Revisited Discussions and Case Studies, where we all talk about our theories. We put out a bunch of information out there that we have collected, and we try to put out all facts. I've got a great team of people over there. Yeah, I'm doing what I can, and I hope it's enough someday.
Well, I think you're doing a tremendous work. Christina said, where is DeDe now?
She's working at a hospital somewhere. I want to say in Klamath Falls. She's actually been working there for quite a while now.
Because I know there's flyers that go around where she works. I know that she was let go from one place and she went to another because both of them have moved out of the area. Let's take a second to remember Kyron. And the number at the bottom of the screen still works. The email at the bottom of the screen still works. If you have information about Kyron Horman, please reach out. Kyron deserves it. His daddy deserves it. His mama deserves it. And if Terry and DeDe, anytime they want to communicate, that phone line is open. When people say, well, the phone works both ways, not when you're lawyered up. Lawyers are really good about saying no. That's how it goes. But Samantha, I tell you what, girlfriend, I love doing shows with you. Keep up the good fight. Next time, bring your admin on with you.
Oh my gosh, she would absolutely love to. I am sure. She's amazing. I just found her She's just somebody that was inside my Facebook group, and me and her just started clicking. She is amazing at doing research and finding information. She has brought so much old information forward, things that I have never heard of, which is amazing, because these are the reasons why we're able to debunk all of these rumors. She just finds like the information and can verify it. So yeah, she would love to come over on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do that next time because we don't want to be right. We want the facts. People's opinions don't put things in front of a DA or a jury. We're not law enforcement. I say on the show all the time, guess how many cases I've solved? It's a round number, 0.
Yep. Yep. But even though we're not solving, doesn't mean that what we're doing isn't good, because, you know, the information.
No, keep it going, because the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yep. And in this case, there's just so many rumors and so much misinformation. Having the facts is important. It's just important.
Well, you are the absolute best, Savannah. I almost said Savannah. That's my stepdaughter. Samantha. Have a lot of things going in my head right now. I appreciate you so much for being here. And you're going to do this again. You know, we're not going to stop.
Nope. No stopping. Never. Thank you so much, Brooks. I really appreciate it. You're the one who kind of got me going on all of this from the first live, you know, and now I'm doing my own live shows, and, you know, I feel like we're doing a great job. So I really appreciate you calling me on here, and let's cover this again.
100%. You tell me when and where, girlfriend, and I will be there. And let's put some more things together, because my archive is longer than my fat leg.
Yep, we can put anything together. I've got a lot of information.
All right, let's have a big round of applause for our friend, Samantha. And don't forget this.
To Terry, we're coming for you. Don't sleep. Just want to say to Terry, we're coming for you. Don't sleep. To Terry, we're coming for you. Don't sleep.
Do you see how alive she looks? She looks so alive. She's not broken. She has a pep in her step, and she's coming for Terry. Look at her. I was so happy, and my heart gets so full every single time I see her say that, because she's coming for Terry. She is literally, I just feel like she knows something, because that is not the broken Desiree that we are used to seeing. It isn't.
No, not at all. Hang on, I'm going to share your... Hang on 1 second. Okay, this is our friend Samantha's YouTube channel. And I do love her saying that too. Aggie said, Terry, don't sleep. Well, how could you sleep, knowing that you're under investigation? Whether you're a suspect, person of interest, or suspicious, how could you sleep? How could you? If you claim to love Kyron as much as you say, and you were the primary caregiver, well, we understand that kids get away from you. We get that. We know that kids are abducted. I mean, they can get snatched real quick. It's rare, but it happens. I just don't see how that happened in this case. So you guys grab this link For our friend Samantha, sub up. And I will see you guys back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Time. I hate to say it, but we're going to talk about summer wells again tomorrow because Dawn is pulling some more nasty, nasty shit. Samantha, my hat's off to you, my friend, because you're putting the legwork in.
Thank you, Brooks.